Hello, my name is Paris Stovell, and we are in the Solano College TV studio. Here with me is JoJo, Isaiah, Robert, and Jacob, and today we'll be discussing has social media gone too far? Go ahead, Robert.
Okay, so social media is around us. We grew up with social media, and I feel like we spend too much time on social media because we have our cell phones and technology all the time on us, and then whenever we have free time, we're just on our phones, whether it's like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, just to kill time. And I feel like that's taking away from being able to like spend time with like our loved ones or something, or just go out and have fun and like experience new things. Every time, for example, like social media, every time we log into social media, like Instagram, we always see these people that are like famous and gets like tons of likes, like thousands of likes, and we think of it as like we want to be them, so that like takes away from us being us and wanting to grow as a person. So, you know, I think that social media has gone too far, and I mean, we can't escape social media, but I mean, we could change ourselves personally.
Okay, yes, social media there are people out there that do spend time on social media on their breaks, but that's not everybody. You know, there's people out there that are busy with lives that aren't just sitting there on social media, or there's people out there that don't even have social media. So I don't think that it's social media that's causing people from taking away their attentions from reality. I think it's the person that's you're controlling what you do, where your time is spent. So I don't think it's social media is the problem.
And if I may add, for individuals, like for someone who, is a young person, maybe growing up to, learning who they are, 13-year-old kid, seeing, their favorite content creators showing off like how amazing their lives are. I mean, having, low self-esteem and seeing constant images of how, wow, this person is going to Greece. This person is meeting celebrities I wish I could meet. And them envying the content creator and how they are living a life they wish they could live. And with someone as young as a 13-year-old who's learning to grow into themselves and learning what life really is, with social media in play and seeing constant images of everyone having a good time and seeing how many interactions they get, that is damaging to them and how their worldview will affect them as they grow up. So in that sense, social media can go that far and make it worse for everyone.
Well, personally, when you say it like that, I can't feel that or exactly how you're trying to explain it. Because being that 13-year-old, seeing that content creator do whatever it is, go to Greece or anything, that would more motivate me than put me downwards and be like, oh, I want to be able to do what they can do whenever they want, so I can do whatever I want to do whenever I want. So it's just going to push me to do more. So personally, I don't think social media is really affecting us that hard.
Okay, well, just think about, I mean, I don't know how old you guys are, but just think about when smartphones were not around and you didn't have Facebook and Twitter and all those other platforms. Just remember, like, back in school, like, you had friends that would go out, or classmates that would go out and come back from somewhere and be like, oh, I went here and there, and and show you pictures, or they would come to school wearing Gucci and Louis Vuitton and all this, you would have the same feeling of, man, I want to be like that, or I want to be this. So social media.
But I mean, why add another layer of how someone can be put down? I mean, yes, you can see someone in person and be like, wow, they're wearing expensive clothing or they have the nicest stuff. But again, that's one layer, and then social media adding another layer to beat down on someone who is envious of that lifestyle or wanting, a better life in that sense. So, yeah, I mean, you can see people in person and think, wow.
Well, don't you think that that's how the person being brought up? Like, don't you think that's how the teenager is being taught by their parents of how to look at themselves and to look at the world? The social media is not telling you to, hey, like, you need to be like this guy or you need to be like that guy. There are tons of kids out there that don't feel that way. We're just pointing out the negative.
Well, yeah, but for the ones that are affected by it, whether, you have the parents that tell you, like, don't buy into people having these extravagant lifestyles. But, I mean, having you always, like, when you had a parent tell you, like, oh, you gotta, do this and that, and you're like, yes, Mom, I get it. But even with parents that, teach their kids about, having, more self-esteem and that you shouldn't want to be like other people and be your own self, but the kid's still gonna be stubborn. They're still gonna think the way they think, unless for some people it might have to be a very serious and like very life-changing experience to think, okay, now I realize that this does not matter and that I should be myself and live how I want to live. But until then, they're still gonna feel like they're not as great as the person living with such amazing lives. So you can still have parents that support you and teach you these things, but it's up to the kids still to actually agree with and acknowledge and practice that mindset.
I definitely agree with you on that. It's up to the kid, and so I think that's why the issues that are being brought up against social media is not really stemming from social media, because those issues have been around and will continue to be around even if social media was to go away. Self-esteem issues is something that needs to be fixed within oneself, and it may require therapy, and it may require an additional support from their family. But I don't think social media is causing the self-esteem issues. The self-esteem issue is already there, and you need to figure out how you're going to fix that issue within yourself in order for you to be okay. Because deleting all your social media accounts is not going to fix your self-esteem issue. When you go to the beach and see the girl in the bikini, you're still going to have self-esteem issues. So I don't think the problem is social media. Maybe the way some people view social media and how they handle their own opinions about social media may be an influence, but we're still like piggybacking on that one person's approach to their own life. And I don't think social media is causing negative impacts. I think those negative thoughts have already been in people's minds before social media was even created.
I mean, but you touched on how, like, let's say if you were to go to the beach and then you see the girl with the perfect body, social media embraces that, as in like, if you're a teenage girl and you go on social media and you see one of these Instagram models or something and you think, wow, they have the perfect body. So that's what we see, the people, like the young adults or anybody that goes on social media, that's what they see as a perfect body, rather than, just like we're beautiful for who we are, how we look. It doesn't matter what type of body we have, whether it's like an hourglass figure or like for guys, big and buff, So like social media has embraced that, the way we see people, how we see people's bodies, how we identify who's perfect and who's not. You know what I mean? So
do you feel like social media does that, or do you feel like people do that? Do you feel like people embrace? Because your definition of a perfect body and my definition of a perfect body is two different definitions. So we can't just say social media influences that or embraces that. It's the people who influence it and the people who embrace it. So once again, like I said, we're going back to individual choice, individual freedom, oneself, and their feelings about themselves. It has nothing to do with. I mean, I don't really care about how other people think about me or how other people feel about me. It's about how I feel about myself at the end of the day. So what I view a perfect body may just be my views. You know what I mean? It's not something that I can see a picture and say, oh, social media is telling me that she has a perfect body, so I have to have that body. Like, no, it's not. That's not the thought process that goes through my head.
Well, yeah. So, like you said, it's about what you personally view, like your personal views and what you think about that, like how you define it. But in the world of social media, when you log into social media and like you're a teenager and you're growing up, this is what you see every day on your timeline. And you just, some of us constantly think that we want to be that person and we need to live their life. And then some, just go about their business and be who they want to be. But that's the problem with social media. It divides us rather than bringing everyone together to have one, thought of, what we're talking about right now as the perfect being.
Yeah, and if I could elaborate on Robert's point, I think in the sense of what he's saying is that with these specific images that are on social media, by seeing so many images of how there are women that are very skinny and seems like it's on the verge of anorexia, or it's the other type where like you have, women who have, large butts and boobs and that's it. There's no like other body types. So in that sense of creating those two images on social media, that is creating an unconscious standard of what a woman should look like. So, like you point out that you would personally not, succumb to that sort of mindset of like, wow, this is the perfect body. I want that. I wish I could have that. But again, would you have the same mindset as a 13-year-old girl or a 10-year-old girl who has an iPad and they can have Snapchat, they can have Instagram and Facebook?
Well, they shouldn't.
But that's what it is nowadays, sadly, where every kid, it seems like they have an iPhone or an iPad and they can basically do whatever they want. And they see this.
Again, that goes back to the user. That goes back to society. Society for thousands of years, we've always been taught that, okay, pretty people get the upper hand on everything. We've seen, back, just back in the day, like, when was it okay to have a, an ugly body? Like, you were always judged before social media come around. You were always judged. There was always a perception of how somebody should look. So that's just society, is what we taught us, and social media, that's just the platform that's just putting it out there.
I mean, social media is just a part of our daily lives, and we can't, run away from it. Whether it's from social media going back to when we were reading from magazines, or from to today where we're logging in on our cell phones or on our laptop to, Facebook or something. We constantly are on social media no matter what,
I mean, then you gotta look at some of the good things, since we talk about a lot of the negative social media has brought us. Social media has brought us a lot of stuff, such as we get our Amber Alerts. That's considered social media, right? You get a buzz straight to your phone. It goes to your Twitter, to your Facebook, right? You get straight news alerts from your social media. Could be from an accident, that could be right down the road, or anything, right? Then you also got to look at all the stuff social media has brought us. It's brought us comedy that makes us laugh when we're down, there's a lot more to it when you really think about it.
Yeah, and like I can agree that it's done a lot of good, and it helped people create careers out of it. But on the other hand, though, with social media, there's also a part of creating the perfect image, the power of manipulation that a content creator can have into making and having people evoke a certain feeling or a certain mindset. So like all the drama that's been going on with YouTube, for example, like Tati Westbrook and James Charles, I mean, their whole drama started over James endorsing a different vitamin company that was a competitor to Tati's. And all of a sudden, Tati Westbrook came out with all these different things and had the internet up in an uproar, like, wow, James Charles is a horrible person. He was actually attempting to make straight men gay, and that's not okay. And among other things that I don't exactly know the full details on. But with that, yes, there are benefits to that, but we also need to acknowledge the negatives and how that can really affect the people that are interacting in social media, and whether or not, you have the mindset of like, this doesn't matter, I'm not affected by this, so I shouldn't care. But there are still other people that will care, and so what? We're supposed to just kind of like, just kind of go about our day, or just sort of put our thoughts in, like, let's keep an open mind and let the facts come out, or just sort of kind of just let things go as they go. I mean, I don't know where to exactly go with just how they can just really have the sort of power that they have, also being a celebrity, whether, even though it's not a traditional sense, but they're still a celebrity, and that has a lot of power in it too.
Yeah, so let's take a break, and when we get back, we'll try to see if we can come up with a consensus on if social media is good or bad.
If you are interested in a career in sports broadcasting, whether you're commentating a live game,
or hosting your own TV show,
or working behind the scenes, then this is the class for you.
For more information, contact Greg Poff, that's me, at solano.edu.
We hope to see you here next semester, and remember,
it's more than just sports, it's an education.
Okay, welcome back. We're going to see if we can come to a consensus about social media.
I mean, there has been perks of social media, like you brought up. We have easier access to news, and like Amber Alerts, whether to be on the lookout for a kidnapper or something, or like emergency alerts, like earthquake about to happen or tsunami about to happen, shelter in place. Social media has grown over time, but besides all the news that we're able to acquire, it doesn't defeat the fact about like social media defeating our self-esteem. So I feel like as people, we just gotta better ourselves and stop thinking of the negatives about each other and just help each other grow as one.
Well, okay, so yeah, social media has become the norm. Social media is never gonna go away. So I think that we as people, especially as parents to young teenagers, need to be more involved with with our child's lives and what they're doing on social media, and just being a part of how they feel, their self-esteem. Because there's a lot of privacy things that you can notifications that you can turn on your phone, or prevent them, from even seeing certain things. So I think that just being more involved within your child as a parent would help.
Yeah, and as far as going with the content creators angle too, I think there's sort of an implied duty as a content creator, because essentially you're becoming a celebrity in the non-traditional sense. And I think it needs to be more apparent that with having 1 million subscribers, 50,000 subscribers, or like PewDiePie with like over 70 million or something, you have a power over people whether you realize it or not. And that there's responsibility there where you should be using that power for good and being able to empower people and making sure that, again, that the mindset of having, all of these images in front of everyone about, perfect bodies and living the extravagant lifestyle, that there needs to be the balance of like, this is not reality, this is fake. And so you need to live your own life and figure out who you are.
Yeah, I definitely agree that people who have a strong following make the proper use of their influence. And I also agree with what JoJo said as far as making sure our kids, we are just involved with our kids' lives and what's going on their phone, and just making sure that we are overly involved in these days and age with our kids, and also with our own education, because we have to educate ourselves in order to understand the angles and the subliminal messages that social media and media in general presents, and being able to have a mind of our own and be able to think for ourselves. And so, just making sure that your kids' self-esteem is not low, that you're encouraging your kids. I mean, a lot of things that happen with teenagers, I feel like happens in their household, or is because of the parenting in their household. Because that's your first choice of where you're going with your life, is in your household, in your home, and how your parents raised you. So I definitely can agree with your guys' points, and just making sure you're more involved and you think for yourself.
Yeah, I also agree with the parenting too.
Yeah.
I think it's just all about, role models, like whether it's social role models, using their platform to, motivate people to be a better person, and then, like in life role models, whether it's like you brought up your parents or like, let's say, older siblings. We all have to come together, and embrace each other,
Yeah, I can agree with that. Mainly, going off your role models, do you think that we should limit what some people, content creators, anybody who has like a certain amount of followers, should we be able to limit what they have the power to do, and to make it so that they cannot negatively affect people with certain things?
Yes and no. I mean, I don't think we really need to limit them. It's just, for like, let's say these social role models, we're their fans, they feed off fan feedback. So, it's just up to people, humans, to like think of the good rather than bad.
Definitely. Okay, so we're going to wrap up this session, and thank you guys for joining us.
If you are interested in a career in sports broadcasting, whether you're commentating a live game,
or hosting your own TV show,
or working behind the scenes, then this is the class for you.
For more information, contact Greg Poff, that's me, at Solano.edu.
We hope to see you here next semester, and remember,
It's more than just sports, it's an education.
Yeah.